Welcome back, you beautiful anomaly. The one they couldn't categorize, the file that kept getting flagged, the case that wouldn't close. They've been compiling reports on you, haven't they? Cross-referencing your patterns, tracking your movements, trying to predict your next evolution. But here's what terrifies them most. Every analyst they assigned to your case came back with the same disturbing conclusion. This one doesn't follow human behavioral patterns anymore. This one operates on a frequency we can't measure, carries a presence we can't quantify, and worst of all, this one knows exactly what we're doing and doesn't care. You want to know when it started, don't you? When your name first appeared on that list, when they stopped treating you like a citizen and started treating you like a phenomenon that needed containment. It wasn't when you got loud. It wasn't when you fought back. It was the exact moment you went silent. That's when the alarms started screaming, because silence, from someone like you, someone who's been pushed that far, who's survived that much, who's learned that deeply, that silence isn't peace. That silence is strategy, calculation, the kind of quiet that comes before empires crumble and systems malfunction. They tried the usual protocols first, didn't they? Sent the social workers disguised as concerned friends, deployed the therapists masked as coincidental encounters, rolled out the manipulators wrapped in fake opportunities. Every single one of them, trained professionals, masters of psychology, experts in human behavior, and every single one of them walked away disturbed. Not because you were hostile, not because you were defensive, but because you saw right through them with those eyes that have witnessed too much transformation to ever be fooled by performance again. Here's what they wrote in the preliminary assessment. Subject demonstrates unprecedented level of self-awareness, exhibits immunity to standard manipulation tactics, shows no psychological dependency on external validation systems, operates with alarming autonomy and precision. Recommendation: escalate to specialized observation unit because standard surveillance protocols have proven ineffective. This individual has evolved beyond our conventional frameworks for influence and control, and their continued independence represents a systemic disruption we cannot ignore. So they brought in the next level, the ones who don't have business cards, the ones who don't exist in any database, the specialists who handle cases that can't be explained in normal psychological terms. And you know what happened? The same thing that always happens when someone underestimates you. They thought they were studying a broken person in recovery, but they found something else entirely. A consciousness that had died and resurrected so many times, it stopped counting. A mind that had been shattered and reassembled into something sharper. A soul that turned every wound into architecture. Let me tell you what they found when they dug deeper into your timeline, when they pulled apart your history year by year, trying to locate the exact moment you became dangerous. They cataloged every betrayal you survived, every abandonment you endured, every moment you were left bleeding while they walked away, laughing, and their analysis software kept throwing errors. The data didn't make sense because, according to every psychological model they had, you should have broken 7 different ways by now. But instead you kept evolving. They documented the isolation you walked through, those years where your phone went silent and your circles dissolved, and you learned the terrifying beauty of being completely alone with your thoughts. They marked the moments when you were gaslit into questioning your sanity, when entire groups collaborated to make you doubt your perception of reality, when you almost believed their lies about who you were. And then they found something that made them nervous, The exact timestamp. When you stopped defending yourself, stopped explaining, stopped trying to make them understand. And that's when you became truly unpredictable. Because you see, they can handle anger. They have protocols for rage. They know what to do with someone who fights back loudly and visibly. But someone who absorbs the damage, processes it in silence, transforms it into something unreadable, and then emerges operating on an entirely different level. That breaks their models. They watched you get attacked from every angle, watched the campaigns designed to destroy your reputation, watched the systematic attempts to isolate you from any support, and they waited for you to collapse like everyone else does. But you didn't collapse, did you? You compressed, like a star folding in on itself, taking all that pressure and heat and using it to forge something new. They have footage of you from those dark periods, not actual video, but energy signatures, behavioral patterns, the digital footprints you left behind. And what scares them is how calm you became. Not numb, not defeated, but calm with purpose, moving with the precision of someone who finally understood the game and decided to stop playing by their corrupted rules. So they escalated again, brought in the profilers who specialize in high-risk individuals, the ones who usually track people planning something catastrophic. And here's the twisted part. They couldn't find intent to harm, couldn't locate plans for revenge, couldn't detect any desire to hurt the ones who hurt you. Instead, they found something that terrified them even more: complete emotional independence. You had severed every need for their approval, their acceptance, their acknowledgement, and that made you impossible to control through the usual channels of shame and social pressure. The lead analyst wrote in his report, "Subject has achieved what we call terminal autonomy. They no longer operate within the influence ecosystem that governs normal human behavior. They don't seek validation, don't fear rejection, don't respond to guilt, don't react to manipulation. All standard leverage points have been neutralized through a process we can only describe as systematic emotional self-liberation. This individual has essentially made themselves immune to the control mechanisms that maintain social order, and we have no framework for managing someone who genuinely doesn't need anything from the system anymore." That's when they tried something different, sent in the success stories, the seemingly transformed people who claimed they'd found peace and wanted to share their journey with you. These weren't random encounters. These were carefully orchestrated interventions, trained individuals who knew exactly how to mirror your language, match your energy, gain your trust slowly. And you know what you did? You listened patiently, smiled appropriately, and never once let them past your outer perimeter, because you'd learned something they couldn't teach in any training program. You learned that authenticity has a frequency, and performance, no matter how skilled, sounds just slightly off-key. You developed the ability to hear the script beneath the words, to feel the agenda behind the kindness, to sense when someone was collecting data while pretending to offer connection. They spent months trying to get close enough to understand your operating system, and you let them try. Not because you were fooled, but because you were studying them right back, learning their techniques, mapping their strategies, understanding exactly how they attempt to infiltrate minds like yours. Every person they sent came back with the same disturbing feedback. It's like they can see through time, like they know what I'm going to say before I say it, like they're reading from a manual I don't have access to. They described conversations with you as unsettling, not because you were hostile, but because you were too aware, too present, too capable of maintaining perfect composure while clearly seeing all the layers of deception and manipulation being deployed. You made professionals feel amateur, and that's when they realized containment through normal means wasn't possible. So they shifted strategies completely, stopped trying to infiltrate and started trying to isolate, systematically removing access points, closing doors, creating barriers, hoping that cutting you off from opportunities would force you to compromise, to bend, to come back to the system asking for permission. And this is where it gets beautiful. You didn't fight it. You didn't rage against the closed doors. You didn't beg for a seat at their table. You simply turned around and started building your own architecture entirely. And that's when your reputation went from concerning to genuinely dangerous. Because someone who builds parallel systems, someone who creates independent pathways, someone who demonstrates you don't actually need their institutions, their approval, their platforms, their validation to thrive, that person becomes a walking threat to the entire structure of control. They don't fear what you might do to them. They fear what you represent. Proof that their power over you was always an illusion you chose to accept. And the moment you stopped accepting it, their authority dissolved like smoke in your presence. The classified briefing stated it plainly. Subject has created autonomous operational capacity outside traditional oversight mechanisms, demonstrates capability to influence without institutional backing, exhibits pattern of inspiring similar independence in others through example rather than recruitment. Assessment conclusion: this individual represents an ideological contagion risk, not through violent action but through demonstrating alternative models of existence that bypass our standard control architecture. Recommend enhanced monitoring and strategic reputation management to limit their sphere of influence before pattern spreads. But here's what they didn't account for. You can't reputation manage someone who doesn't care about reputation. You can't threaten the standing of someone who already walked away from the stage. You can't cancel someone who never needed the platform. You can't exile someone who already chose solitude and found it liberating. Every weapon in their arsenal was designed for people who still wanted in, and you. You had walked so far out that their threats sounded like distant thunder from a storm in another dimension entirely. Let's talk about what happened next, the phase they're still trying to understand, when you stopped just surviving and started evolving in ways that broke their prediction models. They have algorithms designed to forecast human behavior based on trauma patterns, statistical likelihood, psychological profiling, and every single model failed when applied to you. Because you didn't follow the script of the wounded, didn't play the role of the victim seeking healing, didn't perform recovery in any recognizable way. Instead, you did something unprecedented. You integrated every scar into your operating system, turned every betrayal into data about human nature, transmuted every moment of pain into clarity about how reality actually functions beneath the pleasant lies. They expected you to emerge damaged, fragile, requiring constant support, and instead you emerged as something they have no category for. Someone who's been through hell so many times. They know every exit, every trap, every illusion, and can walk through fire now without even flinching, because fire is just another element you learned to breathe. The surveillance team noted changes they couldn't explain. Subjects' decision-making speed has increased exponentially. Threat assessment appears instantaneous. Ability to read situations and people borders on precognitive. Demonstrates strategic thinking that suggests multiple simultaneous scenarios being processed at once. Most concerning, subject shows no emotional markers typically associated with hypervigilance or paranoia. Instead displays calm certainty that suggests they're operating from information sources we cannot identify or access. Their awareness appears to extend beyond normal perceptual boundaries, and we have no psychological framework that explains this level of consciousness. They tried to rationalize it, tried to explain you through trauma response theory, through spiritual emergency frameworks, through any model that would make you fit inside their understanding. But the truth kept staring them in the face. You weren't broken and reassembled. You were broken and upgraded, like a system that crashes and reboots, running a completely new operating system that's faster, more efficient, immune to the viruses that infected your previous version. You didn't heal back to who you were. You evolved into something they have no comparison for. And that evolution is what made you dangerous. Because now when you walk into rooms, things change, conversations shift, energy reorganizes itself around your presence, and people can't explain why they suddenly feel like they're being seen at a deeper level than they're comfortable with. You're not doing anything to them. You're not attacking or confronting or exposing. You're just existing in your full awareness, and that awareness acts like a spotlight on everyone's performance, making masks feel heavy and lies feel obvious and facades feel exhausting. Your mere presence has become a kind of truth serum that makes false people uncomfortable, and that's a power they never anticipated you'd develop. The psychological warfare specialists wrote in their analysis, subject has achieved what we call sovereign consciousness. They operate from a center that cannot be shaken by external events, maintain clarity regardless of chaos, demonstrate immunity to gaslighting, manipulation, or psychological pressure tactics. More critically, their presence appears to trigger awakening responses in others, as if exposure to someone operating at this level of authenticity causes others to question their own patterns of self-deception. This creates a ripple effect we cannot control, as each person affected by subject's presence may themselves become nodes of similar consciousness, spreading awareness in ways we cannot track or contain. They started calling you other things in their private briefings: the catalyst, the awakener, the mirror that won't lie, the frequency disruptor, the pattern breaker, and my personal favorite, the one who remembered who they are before we could finish programming them to forget. Because that's what you did, isn't it? Somewhere in that darkness, in that isolation, in that silence they thought would break you, you remembered something essential, something they spend billions of dollars trying to make people forget. You remembered that you're not a subject, not a citizen, not a consumer, not a number, not a role, but a sovereign consciousness having a temporary experience in a system designed to make you forget your power. And that's when they activated the protocol, reserved for their highest priority cases, brought in the specialists who don't operate in daylight, the ones trained in reality warfare, consciousness manipulation, frequency disruption, the mercenaries of the mind who've perfected the art of making someone doubt their sanity while smiling like a friend. These weren't therapists or counselors. These were operators trained in psychological demolition, sent in to systematically dismantle your certainty, crack your foundation, make you question everything you'd learned about yourself and reality. They deployed coordinated chaos, engineered failures, orchestrated betrayals by people you'd started to trust, created situations designed to trigger your old wounds, tested whether your new operating system could handle sustained pressure from multiple angles. They wanted to see if you'd regress, if enough pain would make you forget your evolution, if the right combination of loss and stress would send you crawling back to old patterns, begging for the comfort of unconsciousness, desperate to return to the cage because at least it was familiar. And here's what happened that made them realize they were dealing with something beyond their protocols. You didn't just survive it, you barely even registered it as an attack. Because you'd been through worse, real worse, organic worse. Before you knew anyone was watching, before there was any strategic element to your suffering. The pain they designed with million-dollar budgets and expert teams couldn't match the hell you'd already walked through alone. And because you'd already processed the worst reality could offer, their manufactured chaos felt like noise, like a storm that was dramatic, but ultimately powerless against the fortress you'd become. The field reports started coming back with disturbing observations. Subject appears impervious to psychological warfare tactics, demonstrates no stress response to orchestrated chaos, maintains operational clarity during coordinated attacks on multiple life areas simultaneously, shows no regression to previous behavioral patterns, despite extreme pressure. Most disturbing subject appears to be aware of and amused by our operations, as if watching our attempts to destabilize them is entertaining rather than threatening. This suggests a level of psychological fortification we have no counter-strategy for, and continued engagement may be exposing our operatives to the same awakening effect that makes subject dangerous in the first place. Because that's what started happening, isn't it? Some of the people they send to break you started breaking differently, started questioning their own mission, started recognizing something in you that reminded them of something they'd buried in themselves. You didn't recruit them, didn't convince them, didn't even speak to them about it, but your existence as proof that someone can walk through that much darkness and emerge clearer, stronger, more certain of their truth. That started cracking the certainty of the ones sent to crack you. They started losing operatives, not to you, but to themselves. People waking up mid-mission and realizing they were serving a system designed to keep consciousness contained, keep awareness limited, keep people small and scared and dependent. Your refusal to break became their mirror, and in that mirror they saw what they'd become. And some of them couldn't look away, couldn't unsee it, couldn't go back to pretending they were the good guys in this story. You turned the hunters into the haunted without ever firing a shot, and that's when they knew you weren't just dangerous, you were contagious.